Hello, this is Sam Gerrans from samgerrans.com. Today is Friday, June 2nd, 2023, and today the subject is NASA holds first public meeting about sightings of UFOs. Well, actually, that's just going to be the title or something like it, but what it's really about is exposing propaganda, and everything is propaganda. It's not, if you think it's propaganda, usually if you notice it and think, hey, that's propaganda, it means that it's not very good. Because good propaganda is unnoticeable. It's like the water that the goldfish swims in. If the goldfish notices, hey, you know what, I'm swimming in water, then, it's an unusual kind of goldfish. So what I'm trying to do is to help you notice the water in which you're swimming. It's not to depress you. It's not to make you, depressed exactly. What I'm trying to do is to kind of educate you into a healthy skepticism of pretty much everything that you're being given, because it is propaganda, and now they're really, really good at it. They're excellent at it. And it's not just like one thing. People think, that one article there is propaganda or whatever it is. Yeah, propaganda doesn't work that way. It really doesn't. It's much more, there are different types. There's agitprop, and there's, what you might call sort of integrated type of propaganda. But what you find is it's much more, continue the fishing analogy, a lot of it's like ground bait. It's just there to get you habituated to eating this sort of thing. So when the hook comes, then you recognize the bait, you've been eating it, and now you eat that. So there are several techniques, but it's not rocket science in its essentials. There are some basic patterns that repeat, and if you can notice them, you can sort of put them into boxes. So anyway, what we're going to look at is NASA, which is essentially a propaganda institution. It's really what it makes is propaganda. It's presenting. It's really there to reinforce an understanding or a mythology and an iconography of the universe, which is actually very recent. And it's there to add some sort of validity to that, and to get you feeling that you are insignificant, that your life is insignificant, that you're just a speck in the middle of nowhere, you see, and to make you feel helpless, and that your life has no meaning. It's really a philosophical thing. But anyway, quite clearly what they're going to do is bring on the aliens, and the reason for this is because they need you to feel that there are several reasons for it, but one of them is that they want you to feel that there is an external threat, so we can all get together and sing Kumbaya around the tree of life with a can of Coke, staring into the distance, in a sort of completely unnatural form of civilization, if you can call it that, where actually what you are is a drone. You're a drone with no culture, no history, no genetics, no background, no religion, nothing, which makes you very useful. If they're going to leave you there, because probably they're going to get rid of you, especially as they bring out the next round of face nappy wearing, which they're definitely going to do. It's just on pause if you haven't worked it out yet, because they have a project vis-a-vis Russia, and also taking down Europe, which is what it's really all about. Anyway, let's get into it. We're back with our good friends, The Independent, which is my go-to, and it's not that I really hate The Independent, it's nothing to do with that. It's just that they're all complete nonsense, and The Independent, it sort of positions itself as a serious newspaper, and it's just another load of tosh. NASA holds first public meeting about sightings of UFOs. See if we can get through all of this. I haven't read this. We'll go through it together, but very briefly, I did another one on space and aliens and so on recently. What I'm trying to do is to show you that these are campaigns. Campaign's a military term. It's a military campaign against you to get you used to it. And you see what these are, as I say, a ground bait. So they're keeping this space thing in your mind. They had to, I've said this before, but in screenplay writing, there's a setup and a payoff. You can't just have the payoff. You can't just have the special thing that the hero can do, unless the fact that the hero can do the special thing has been set up earlier in the story. This is all set up, okay? That's how it works. NASA has convened a public meeting to discuss sightings of unexplained phenomena in the sky. And here we have a picture down below of an unexplained phenomenon. We'll just close that down. The space agency has convened a panel to examine sightings of what it calls UAPs. Oh, I see. Now they've got a new term for it. You'll notice this, the way they work. As soon as they start something, they generally change the terminology. I'll just give you an example. When we started a war against where was it? Argentina. Argentinians had always been known as Argentinians. It was now the Argentine, if you're old enough to remember that. They just changed the terminology. Makes it feel like it's somehow more specialised. It has this kind of specialist quality. It doesn't. It's all tosh. That's all it is. Tosh, tosh, tosh. You'll understand that. Called UAPs, or unidentified aerial phenomena. Okay? It's just in case, just in case the other word wasn't good enough for you, which many refer to as UFOs. Okay, so the uninitiated, those people who aren't as geeky as the specialist geeky people. And just on an aside, you'll notice the kind of people who really believe in this nonsense are exactly the types of people who work in tech companies. It's a religion for them. If you threaten this, you challenge it on any basis whatsoever, it's like it's like a 3-year-old. You've taken their sweeties away. Now the group has given its first public discussion ahead of a report due to be published later this year. You see, they're setting up for the next thing. The space agency said the work was aimed at making it easier for people to report those UAPs. UAPs, it's like OAP, it's like an old age person, UAP. As well as to examine what exactly they might be. I'll tell you what they are right now. They fall into 2 categories, okay? One is man-made objects, second is demons. If you haven't worked that out, too bad for you. But representatives said that the panel involved in the work had received sustained abuse that had got in the way of the work. Abuse. Okay. I mean, if you want abuse, try standing up and saying something truthful. See how much, see how easy it goes for you. One people who don't get abuse is NASA. NASA's a holy institution. Anyway, quote, harassment only leads to further stigmatization of the UAP field, significantly hindering the scientific progress. Science isn't really science. It isn't science. If just so you know, it's and I'll tell you why it isn't. Because science really is to do with what you know. Really, and it comes from the Greek root of knowledge, of one knowing something. Playing whack-a-mole and hitting phenomena in a certain way and noticing patterns is a form of knowledge. It's when I press this button, this happens, and you can apply this to create technology, but it isn't actual knowledge because it doesn't go beyond a certain level. And how could it? Because their whole philosophy, their whole religion excludes anything beyond that. There is no metaphysics. There is only the physicality of it. It's a mechanical universe, essentially. Although you could argue that some scientists don't believe this any longer, but essentially they do. If you go down to the quantum level, it's still just an extension of the same thing. But what they're doing is creating their own religion, and that's fine. They're welcome to it, but they don't want you to have your religion. That's not allowed, you see, because you're just backward and stupid and all the rest of it, unless you believe in the scientists' religion. Where were we? Harassment only leads to further stigmatization of the UAP field, significantly hindering the scientific progress. This word progress, it really brings it out in me. If you want to see progress in action, look at, I'm sure you can find it on YouTube. It's pictures of people in Paris of 115, 120 years ago. And now look at it today. Tell me we're living in progress. I don't think so. Significantly hindering the scientific progress and discouraging others to study. From studying this important subject matter, said Nikki Fox, Associate Administrator for NASA's Science Mission Directorate. I think what Nikki's trying to say here is what the point they're trying to get across is what they seem to be doing is trying to make, to destigmatize people's reporting of phenomena in the sky so that when they set this up, people are happier about picking up the telephone and saying, hey, I've seen a UFO, which is what they'll call it. They're getting you ready. They're preparing your mind so that when they've got this light show set up in the sky, you're not going to sit there and waste their money. You're going to pick the phone up and say, hey, I've seen one too. This is a PR stunt. It's public relations. It's a military operation, and it's designed to destroy you. Nevertheless, NASA said that it would be working to examine those reports of UAPs. You see, so what NASA's saying is, we're open to this. We want you to come and tell us. Quote, the presence of UAPs raises concerns about the safety of our skies. The safety of our skies. If you want, you don't need UAPs. Just look in the sky. You remember well, actually, if you're under 35, you probably don't remember. But skies used to be clear, and then they had clouds in them. They weren't filled with this mushy, opaque porridge, which is what you have now, if you can have eyes in your head and can see what these aeroplanes are spewing out across the skies, across all skies, you think you have a war right now, the East versus Russia, Russia versus the West, rather, and all this sort of thing. We still have them. We have them here. These things fly across all borders. They don't respect borders. There are international treaties in place which allow this to happen. War makes no difference to it whatsoever. Isn't that amazing? And if this, yes, the presence of UAPs raises concerns about the safety of our skies, and it's this nation's obligation to determine if these phenomena pose any potential risks to airspace safety, said Daniel Evans. I see. So this is the problem. There's always a problem, a reaction, and you have the solution, just like in any advertising campaign. And just on this word nations, everybody started using the word nations. I think about words probably more than I should, but I watch the development of words. And we used to talk about countries, but now we don't talk about countries anymore. We talk about nations. Well, I don't talk about them, but other people do. Even people who should know better. The fact is, these nations, they don't exist anymore, especially if you live in the West. It's just a hodgepodge of nothing. It's not a nation. It isn't. They should use the word countries, or basically plantations, that tax plantations, which is what these countries actually are. Said Daniel Evans, NASA's Assistant Deputy Associate Administrator for Research. They like long titles in NASA, don't they? The kind of people who go to work. I actually worked with a chap who had worked at NASA. In fact, a few of them. And they were unbearable in so far as they weren't able to think at all outside of a very myopic interface with facts, of which of sort of technical facts, of which they were very, very good, but they had no perspective at all, and it was impossible trying to inveigle them into any sort of discussion on that front. The work is about safety, but it's always about safety, but also the space agency's, quote, responsibility to be honest and forthright and to follow the science. Well, when are they going to start doing that? Oops, wrong button. That's hilarious. Just on this sort of doublespeak, something I was thinking about the other day, because doublespeak is more than doublespeak. Doublespeak is being able to hold two things in your mind, but really what you see is this sort of projection of language. And I was thinking about the words Russia's unprovoked war of aggression, which is the mantra. It's one of the mantras, and as long as it takes being the other one. It's like every campaign has got its slogans. Well, these are the slogans. Now, if you think about it, we'll stand with Ukraine for as long as it takes. It's an undefined outcome, and as long as it takes, and as long as what takes. But if you think about Russia's unprovoked war of aggression, every single word of that is incorrect. It's not Russia's. Russia didn't provoke anything. If you know any history, you'll know that that's a fact. And it's not a war of aggression. It's actually a war of defence. And all you can see, I mean, if this isn't a pro-Russia stance or anything, just reverse the the circumstances. Just imagine Russia had set up Mexico with a load of Nazis to attack Texas and Arizona, and wanted to move its nuclear missiles in there. And there you are. That's precisely the situation America would be in. But people don't care anymore. They don't care about any of this. But you should care about it. And the reason you should care about it is because they're driving you to World War III. They literally are. We're literally living in it. Have you been told? No, you haven't. Why are you in it? Well, actually, you're in a lot of different wars. You're in World War III, but you're also watching the unfinished business of World War II, plus a civil war. It's all those things all at the same time. And the people who actually control your governments, and they do control them, your vote means nothing. You don't live in a democracy. And anyway, if you did, it wouldn't make any difference, are just driving that agenda. And their agenda is, you will never have heard of it. What they're actually doing and why, you will never have heard of it. But if you know anything about Russian history, I'll tell you why it's happening. It's very simple. We had the Tsarist regime. That was overthrown. It's called the Russian Revolution. There was nothing Russian about that whatsoever. However, under Stalin, I'm not a big fan of Stalin, but he managed to claw back some actual power against these people who had taken over the country in this coup paid for by banks based in America. And then when they brought down the Soviet Union collapsed, the same people who had taken over Russia in 1917 came in and became the oligarchs, Russian oligarchs, nothing Russian about them whatsoever. And then Putin curtailed their power and they didn't like it, and now they're back for the next round. Okay, that's the actual story, and nobody, absolutely nobody, will tell you this. It doesn't matter who they are; they'll never mention it because they're afraid. But that's the truth of the matter, and that's why you're on. Your countries are being collapsed, and that's why we're on the brink of World War III. See, okay, it's not quite simple, really, isn't it? Okay, let's continue. But the data on UAPs has so far been, quote, fragmented, according to the panel's chair, David Spergel, with problems of imprecision and having information spread across different agencies. Okay, I'll just tell you what they want to do. They want to get a central hub so that when you see something flashing in the sky, you think, oh, there it is. It's an old age pensioner. No, it's not an old age pensioner. It's a UFO. That's what it is. You pick up the phone because what they're doing is they're priming you. They're programming you to understand what you're going to see to interpret it. It's like you would with a computer program. And then what they want is a central hub so they can bring statistics to make it sound scientific. Okay, it's all theatre. Those issues meant that it was difficult to provide conclusions on every reported UAP event. So what they're doing is they're making it sound scientific, and that's really what science is, to a large extent. It's a way of putting numbers to narratives to make it sound objective. He called for better data and joined other panelists in arguing that it should become less stigmatized for people. Here we go, for people to come forward about their sightings. Okay, so what they want to do is, it used to be that you were a mad conspiracy theorist if you thought this, if you saw anything. Like today, if you look in the sky and can actually see airplanes belching out these streams across the sky. You're not allowed to see that, and if you do see it, you're not allowed to talk about it. If you do talk about it, then you're just mocked and derided as somebody who can't understand how airplanes work. On the other hand, now, after a long time, it used to be that you were a conspiracy theorist if you saw anything, in the sky of some unidentified type. But now what they want to do is normalize it. Why? Because they want to publicize it, because now they're getting ready. I'm just telling you, it's not very difficult. Numerous panelists said that there was a, quote, stigma about reporting such phenomena that made it difficult to fully examine what might be going on. I'll just translate this into English. We want your data so that we can create a whole new narrative and normalize it among more of the population, none of whom can actually think straight. And so, but we're going to use you, we're going to leverage you in order to shoehorn the narrative we've already decided upon into your mind on a sort of industrial basis. All right, that's how it works. Many UAPs are examples of, quote, mundane characteristics of readily explainable sources, said Sean Kirkpatrick, director of the U.S. Department of Defense's All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. I wonder if there's a department of thinking up long and completely unmemorizable job titles. I expect there is. I wonder if they have a long, unmemorizable job title too. He said that only a very small number of UAP reports were truly unusual. Well, that may be, that, of course. But again, look at the big picture here. As an example, here we are, I've got some science coming up, I expect. Dr. Kirkpatrick showed a new video of what he said were 3 dots moving across the sky at speeds that meant they were impossible for pilots to catch. But it was later established that the dots were just commercial planes and that they were further away than they first appeared. Okay, we're setting the scene here. Some of these are, explainable by natural phenomena. But now what we're going to do, I expect, is say, well, here are some genuine events, but these are what we're going to collect. The 16-member panel includes experts. Oh, I love that word. In everything from physics to astrobiology. Astrobiology. What does that mean? Astrobiology. I suppose it's astrobiology. Well, it's really a speculative science, isn't it? Of sitting around talking about life on other planets. But do other planets exist? How would you know? You've never been to any of them. And began its work last June. Wednesday's session is the first public public hearings by the group, which itself represents the first such inquiry into unidentified aerial phenomena by NASA. The NASA study And you see, they've got two different ways of spelling NASA. Well, writing NASA, capitals and not capitals. I wonder if that's significant. The NASA study is separate from a newly formalized Pentagon-based investigation of unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAPs. They're really hitting this UAP thing. I'd never heard of this. Had you heard of this before? Well, I think what they're doing, okay, just from a sort of presentation point of view, is rather than saying, oh, I saw a UFO, and everyone goes, oh, well, he's a nutter. I saw a UAP. Oh, well, that was very interesting. Where did you see that UAP? You see, they have to give you a new word so that you feel, it's all about feelings. Well, nobody's got a brain anymore. That you feel that it's acceptable to other people, because most people want to fit in. I don't suffer from this. I'm genetically, for some reason, I seem to be missing this bit of my DNA, if you want to put it in those terms. But I've come to the conclusion that this is an anomaly. Most people just want to fit in, and they don't care about truth. They want to be they want to be loved. They want to feel cozy and warm and all of that stuff. I don't care about that so much. I mean, it's nice if it happens, but it doesn't happen very often, so don't build your life around it. Where were we? UAPs documented in recent years by military aviators and analysed by US defence and intelligence officials. What are they doing? Excuse me, I've got something in my throat. It's in Russia here, it's the season of Pukh, which is these little fluffy things that fly in the sky. They're not UAPs. They come from trees. It's like sort of very thin cotton wool that flies around and it gets into you. So that's what it is. Just going back to what they said here, analysed by US defence intelligence officials, what they're doing, okay, is they're associating this UAP thing with intelligent people who belong to the establishment, which in your mind, this is what they're doing, is they're implanting the idea that UAPs is going to when you see whatever it is they're going to do next, it's going to be acceptable. You're not going to be ridiculed or shadow banned or banned from Twitter or any of this. No, you're probably going to get much approbation. People are going to get give you lots of strokes, and everything's going to be nice for you. And that's all people really care about. Most people, is the truth. The parallel NASA and Pentagon efforts, both undertaken with some semblance of public scrutiny. What does that mean? With some semblance of public scrutiny? I would have left that sentence out. If you're writing propaganda, at least stick to the point. Highlights a turning point for the government after decades spent deflecting, debunking and discrediting sightings of unidentified flying objects, or UFOs, pointing back to the 1940s. I hadn't read this before. You don't have to. You know where it's going. I told you, this is what they're doing. Okay, they're reframing the discussion. That's what they're doing here. This is a setup for a later development. All you have to do is be able to stand back a long way from all of this and just kind of almost, if you just slightly put your eyes out of focus with all of this media and stand a long way back and just see, where are these shadows going? That's it. This isn't really rocket science. The term UFOs, long associated with the notions of flying saucers and aliens, has been replaced in government parlance by UAP. Yeah, you see, there you are. While NASA's science mission was seen by some as promising a more open-minded approach to a topic long treated as taboo by the defense establishment, the US Space Agency made it known from the start that it was hardly leaping to any conclusions. Okay, they're going to keep, oh yes, well, we're going to carry on stroking our beards on this one. We are really scientists, but we are prepared to discuss UAPs. Just don't come to us with any stories about UFOs. Quote, there is no evidence UAPs are extraterrestrial in origin. No, that's right. Of course they're not. Because if you actually understand anything about how, shape of the earth and space and the rest of it, it's all nonsense. It's complete fiction, the whole thing. But anyway, you won't probably, I'm not asking you to accept my word on that. But that would be my view. NASA said in announcing the panel's information last June. In its more recent statements, the agency presented a new potential wrinkle to the UAP acronym itself, referring to it as an abbreviation for unidentified anomalous propaganda phenomena. This suggested that sightings other than those appeared airborne may be included. This is a kind of a non-question. that to make it look as if they're being very, very scrupulous. It's just tosh. Right? It's all tosh. Still, NASA, in announcing Wednesday's meeting, said the space agency defines UAPs as, quote, observations of events in the sky that cannot be identified as aircraft or known natural phenomena from a scientific perspective. It's a religion. US defense officials have said that the Pentagon's recent push to investigate such sightings has led to hundreds of new reports. Wow, what a surprise. You see, now you feel cozy and safe and you can do it. You know, all people want is Big Brother to give them a hug. Has led to hundreds of new reports that are under examination, though most remain categorized as unexplained. Last sentence, thankfully, the head of the Pentagon's newly formed All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office has said the existence of intelligent alien life has not been ruled out, but that no sightings have produced evidence of extraterrestrial origins. But they're getting there. They're setting you up. This is basically ground bait. As I said before, they despise you. They think you're idiots. And honestly, you have to say they do have a point, given how people, eat this stuff up without any kind of critical thought whatsoever. They just want to belong. They want to be in a big group, sing Kumbaya together and feel like happy and warm and safe and clever at the same time. But they're not prepared to take any actual risks. That's just the truth of human nature. The ruling elites know this and they're completely right. Anyway, that's the end of this one. Support me if you can. And the best way to do that is to go to my Substack, which will be down below, and become a paid subscriber or donate, because that really helps. Other than that, details of where I upload to, how you can join my Substack and Telegram channel, support my work and download my books free are in the description. Thanks for listening and bye for now.